The alien woman stared at the steaming plate like it was a bomb. Her hands shook as she whispered, barely audible, Is there more? Are there leftovers?" Every soldier in the room froze. Because for months, the alien POW women had only asked one question: Are humans going to eat us? But today she was asking for seconds. And that meant something in this camp had changed forever. Corporal Reed watched the woman in stunned silence. Her silver-blue skin still looked sickly. Her collarbones still showed sharply through the loose gray shirt they gave her. But her eyes, those wide violet eyes, held something new. Not terror, not empty survival instinct, but hunger. Real, human hunger. Reed slowly set the ladle down, breath unsteady. He'd cooked for soldiers, refugees, even diplomats in the peace years, but never had a single bite shaken him like this moment. She wasn't afraid of the food. She wanted it. After everything they'd told him about these aliens, these Serenian prisoners of war, he didn't expect this to happen. Not today. Not ever. The room stayed silent, except for the soft hum of the heating coils keeping the biscuits warm. The other alien women watched their leader, Aina, leaning forward in their seats. They were all thin, all frightened, all exhausted. Reed suddenly realized they were waiting to see if their leader lived or died after eating human food, waiting to know whether they were next. Aina swallowed the bite. Her eyes closed. Her chest rose, and then tears rolled down her cheeks. Reed stepped closer, his voice gentle. "Hey, it's okay. It's just food." She flinched, backing away like he'd struck her. "Food," she whispered, touching her throat. "Food that doesn't burn, doesn't numb, doesn't control." "It's breakfast," Reed said softly. "Just biscuits. Just gravy." The other women exchanged confused looks, whispering in their language. They didn't understand the words, but they felt the safety in the tone. Aina wiped her eyes quickly, ashamed. "Why give us this? Why feed us like this?" Reed hesitated. He'd heard rumors about their empire, the starvation camps, the genetic obedience conditioning, the lies they fed their soldiers. But nothing could have prepared him for how fragile she looked, how suspicious she was of kindness. "Because you're hungry," he said simply. Her brows furrowed. But we were captured. We're prisoners." Reed shrugged. "Still hungry." Ayla, the youngest of the group, peeked over Aina's shoulder. She couldn't have been older than 19 in human years. "Will he punish us later?" Reed blinked. "For eating?" Ayla nodded. "On Serenia, good meals come only before." Her voice cracked. She looked down. Tira finished for her. "Before execution." The words hit Reed in the chest like a hammer. No wonder they'd refused food for weeks. No wonder they shook whenever a soldier walked by. They weren't scared of humans. They were scared of patterns. Patterns they'd been trained to believe since childhood. Patterns of cruelty. Reed slowly crouched to eye level with them. "No one is killing you. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. You're safe here." Aina stared at him like she wanted to believe it, but didn't know how. Her voice was barely a breath. "Why would humans give prisoners safety? My people told us you eat us." Reed's jaw dropped. "Eat what? No, absolutely not." She lifted the biscuit again, sniffing it carefully. "This smells like a ritual. Something sacred. Something for strength." "It's flour," Reed said. "Salt, butter, milk. That's it. And the white sauce. Just gravy. Tasty gravy. And it's not poison. Not unless you're allergic to kindness." For a moment, Aina almost smiled. Almost. But her eyes flickered with fear again. She glanced around the kitchen, small, plain, metal counters, simple light strips overhead. Nothing threatening. But trauma didn't need threats. Trauma made its own. Reed stood and returned to the stove, scooping a fresh ladle of gravy. He poured it over a new biscuit and placed it in front of Ayla. She didn't touch it, but she didn't run either. The soldiers by the wall kept quiet, sensing how delicate this moment was. Aina leaned close to Ayla, whispering in their tongue. Ayla's hand inched forward. Her fingers brushed the warm bread. She gasped softly. The heat startled her. On Serenia, food was always cold. Cold and tasteless. She tore off a tiny piece, trembling, placed it on her tongue, and froze. Her eyes widened. Then water pooled in them. Not fear, emotion. Something new. Something she'd never felt. This is warm, Ayla whispered. Reed nodded. That's how it's supposed to be. It feels like someone touching me gently, but from inside. Reed's throat tightened. Yeah, that's comfort food. Aina swallowed hard. Comfort. It means the food makes you feel safe. Ayla pressed the biscuit to her chest for a moment, like she was afraid it would disappear. I didn't know food could be safe, she whispered. Then something no one expected happened. Tira reached for a biscuit without being told. The last alien woman followed, and suddenly, all 4 POW women were eating. Slowly at first, then hungrily, then desperately, like years of starvation were catching up all at once. Reed grabbed more trays, rushing to fill plates. He'd cooked for battalions, but nothing had ever mattered this much. Not a medal, not a mission, not a single order he'd ever followed. These women eating their first real meal, this was survival. Real survival. As Aina finished her plate, she lifted her head, something shining in her eyes that Reed had never seen in any POW before. Hope. She looked at Reed, then at the empty tray, and with a trembling voice asked the question that stopped every soldier cold. Reed, are there leftovers? He smiled softly. For you? Always. The first night inside the humanitarian wing felt strangely quiet. Lyra lay on the lower bunk, staring at the soft glow of the overhead lamp. Back in the camps run by her own empire, lights were never this gentle, always harsh, always watching. But here the glow felt like something humans used not to terrify, but to comfort. She didn't understand it yet. She didn't understand a lot of things. Her stomach growled again. Humans had fed them real food, warm, seasoned, filling. Not nutrient paste, not ration bricks. Real food. The word biscuits still confused her. They were soft. They crumbled in her hands. They tasted like nothing she'd ever tried, both salty and slightly sweet, coated in thick white gravy that carried scents she didn't know how to name. She had eaten until her chest felt warm, and then she had whispered the words that made the nearby soldiers choke with laughter. Are there leftovers? Only later did she learn leftovers were normal here, because humans believed food wasn't just fuel, it was connection. She turned on her side and glanced across the small room. 2 other alien women slept already, or pretended to. Each carried scars from the Empire's failures, from the starvation and mistreatment the war had forced them into. Their bodies were too thin, too fragile. The humans knew it immediately. They treated it like something to fix, not exploit. Lyra didn't know whether that made her safer or more frightened. Footsteps sounded beyond the door. Heavy boots, relaxed pace. A human shift change. She tensed automatically, her muscles remembering years of conditioning. Noise means danger. But a moment later the door cracked open and a warm voice drifted inside. Lights out in 5. If you need anything, knock. It was the same soldier from earlier. The one who'd answered her question about leftovers like it was the most normal thing in the world. Sergeant Mateo Brooks. Broad-shouldered, soft-spoken, and confusing. Thank you, she whispered, unsure if he heard. The door closed. The room went still again. Sleep came fitfully, broken by flashes of old memories. The hunger, the beatings from their own officers, the freezing nights on transport ships. She woke trembling around dawn, gripping the thin blanket in fistfuls. It took her minutes to remember where she was. Safe. Federal clean. Treated like she mattered. The thought almost made her laugh. At morning call, the 3 women stepped outside. Fresh air hit Lyra's face like something holy. The sky over the base glowed pale orange, and distant machinery hummed softly. They were guided toward the recovery hall, a simple building where meals were served and medical checks happened. The scent hit her first. She froze. Rich, warm, dense, almost creamy. A human woman ladled thick gravy onto a plate and slid it forward. Good morning. Eat slow today. Your stomach still isn't used to full meals. Lyra nodded, though her eyes stayed locked on the biscuits. She sat with the other women at a long table. They ate quietly. Humans passed nearby, but never hovered. It felt strange. No shouting, no forced speed, no fear. Just food. Warmness spread through her, slow and steady. Her hands didn't shake as much as yesterday. Halfway through eating, Mateo sat down across from her. She startled, but he held up both palms gently. Mind if I join? Or should I give you space? You may sit, she said. He smiled. Cool. Humans had too many slang words. He took a bite of his own breakfast before speaking again. You slept all right? She wondered if she should lie. Her species always lied first. Lies were safety. But humans had a strange ability to look at you like they already knew the truth, and lying felt pointless. I slept, she said quietly, but not well. Too many memories. He nodded like he understood perfectly. Takes time. My sister still wakes up from nightmares about a car accident from years ago. Healing isn't fast. Her eyes widened. Humans told personal stories freely. She'd never seen that before. In the Empire, personal details were weapons. Why do you treat us kindly? She asked before she could stop herself. We are your enemies. Mateo shook his head. The wars between governments. Your people. You didn't choose any of it. Lyra lowered her eyes. It was such a simple answer. Such a human answer. But then something shifted. Voices at the far end of the hall, sharp and harsh. Two alien women had entered late, escorted by guards. They looked worse than the rest. Ragged, bones visible beneath skin, barely able to walk. One stumbled. The guard caught her instantly. Mateo stood. Those two were found in an abandoned Imperial outpost last night, he said quietly to Lyra. Their officers ditched them, left them to starve. Lyra felt a sting of familiar shame. Their empire didn't value them. Humans did. She didn't know how to handle that. The hall fell silent as medics rushed forward. The two women were carefully lowered onto stretchers. One of them, not even conscious, still clutched a tiny packet of nutrient paste like it was treasure. Lyra looked away, throat tight. Mateo rested a hand gently on the table. Not touching her. Just close. Just steady. You're safe here, he said. All of you. She wanted to believe him. Later that day, they were taken to the rehabilitation yard. Sunlight warmed the gravel ground. A human doctor explained simple exercise routines meant to rebuild strength. Nothing strenuous. Slow steps, breathing practices, hand motions. Lyra tried each one. Her limbs trembled but held. The doctor smiled. You're getting stronger. She felt something glow in her chest. But then a sudden siren blared. Everyone froze. Human soldiers reacted instantly, forming protective positions around the alien women. The doctor crouched next to Lyra. Stay close to us. She expected bombs, attacks, retaliation. But a voice boomed over speakers. False alarm. System test malfunction. Soldiers relaxed. Lyra didn't, because she had seen how fast the humans moved, how automatic their instinct was to shield the prisoners with their own bodies. That was not normal. Not for enemies. Not for POWs. Not for anyone except family. Why would they do that for her? And why did her chest tighten painfully when she realized she cared? That evening, after another meal, she wandered a little farther inside the humanitarian wing. She wasn't allowed near weapons or gates, but there was an inner courtyard with benches and soft lamps glowing along the walkway. Mateo found her sitting alone. You okay? He asked. She didn't answer for a long time. Finally, she whispered. When the alarm sounded, you all moved to protect us. Instantly, without thinking. She looked at him, confusion raw in her eyes. What? He sat beside her. Not too close, just near enough to show he wasn't afraid. That's what humans do, he said softly. We protect the vulnerable. Doesn't matter where you're from. She swallowed. Her voice shook. We are not used to being protected. I know, he said, but you will be. She stared at him. For the first time in years, she dared to want to believe something good. But just as the quiet moment settled, a soldier ran into the courtyard, breathless. Sergeant, you need to see this. It's urgent. It's about the new POW arrivals. Mateo stood quickly. Lyra, stay here. Please. She nodded. He disappeared around the corner. But the look on the messenger's face. Something was wrong. Something big. Something that would change everything. The courtyard felt colder after Mateo left. Lyra sat very still on the bench, her claws lightly gripping the edge. She didn't go after him. She knew better than to follow where soldiers rushed with tense faces. But the fear she thought she had trained out of herself crawled slowly up her spine. Voices echoed faintly from hallways. Boots pounded. Doors opened and slammed shut. Something had shifted inside the base, subtle but undeniable, like the air pressure dropping before a storm. She stood. The two alien women she shared a room with found her minutes later. One of them, Vesh, touched her shoulder. "Do you know what happened?" "No," Lyra said softly. But their urgency, it was real. The third woman, Jorah, wrapped her arms around herself. "I hope it's not about us." Lyra didn't answer. She feared it was. 5 minutes later, the women were escorted back to the recovery hall. Not rushed, just guided. But the guard expressions were different this time. Focused, alert, like they were preparing for something the alien women wouldn't like. Inside, the hall felt too quiet. All activity had paused. Even the cooking staff stood aside, their eyes flicking toward the door every few seconds. Then the door opened. Mateo entered with a human officer and 2 medics. His jaw was clenched tight, as if holding something heavy behind his silence. When he saw Lyra, something softened, only for a heartbeat. Then he spoke. "We recovered another transport pod," he said. "But it's bad." All 3 alien women tensed. Mateo stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The pod was launched by your empire during their retreat. It was supposed to carry high-ranking personnel. But when we opened it," Jorah whispered, "survivors." "A few," he said, "but they're not officers. They're children." The room went still. Even the guards looked stunned. Lyra blinked, uncertain she'd heard correctly. "Children." Her voice cracked. "That makes no sense. Our officers would never." "They abandoned them," Mateo said quietly. "Locked them inside, sealed the pod, and left." Vesh staggered backward, covering her mouth with both hands. Jorah let out a tiny, helpless sound. Lyra froze completely. Her empire did many ruthless things. She had lived through them. But even she couldn't imagine discarding children to save rank. It was monstrous even by Imperial standards. An older medic stepped forward. "We brought them to the infirmary first. They're severely malnourished. Worse than any of you were when you arrived. They need familiar faces. Anyone who speaks your language." Lyra's pulse thudded painfully. "You want us to help them?" Mateo nodded. "You're the only ones here who can." Fear, duty, shame, confusion, all of it tangled inside her chest. "We need you, Lyra," he added softly. She didn't understand why her name and his voice made the decision for her, but it did. "I'll help." The infirmary smelled faintly of disinfectant and warm air. Inside the furthest room, 3 small alien children lay on beds, barely moving. Their bodies were thin, their skin pale where scales had faded. Their ribs stood out sharply. Lyra stopped in the doorway. A flash of memory struck her, a training facility from years ago, where young cadets cried through the night because officers withheld food as punishment. She had been one of them once. It took her a moment to breathe again. Mateo stayed beside her, silent but steady. When she finally stepped inside, he didn't follow. He only nodded, signaling trust. Lyra approached the first child, a small girl with silver-tinted eyes. The girl's gaze flickered open. Lyra knelt slowly, keeping her movements soft. "It's okay," she whispered in their shared language. "You're safe. These humans won't hurt you." The girl swallowed weakly. "Are we being tested?" Lyra felt something in her chest bruise. "No. No tests. No punishments." The girl's voice was faint. "They said we were useless." Lyra closed her eyes. So it was true. The Empire had abandoned them intentionally. "No one here thinks that," she whispered. "You matter. You survived. That makes you strong." A tiny tear slipped from the girl's eye. Lyra reached out and gently wiped it away. Behind her, she sensed the other women approaching. Vesh moved to the second bed, murmuring softly to another child. Jorah sat beside the third, gently stroking the little boy's hair, whispering the kind of comfort none of them had ever received growing up. The room filled with soft voices. Hope, fragile and trembling, but real. Lyra stayed with the silver-eyed girl. "You'll get warm food soon," she said. "Human food. It tastes strange at first, but it makes you feel alive." The child blinked. "Biscuits," Lyra stared at her. How do you? One of the soldiers told us, the girl whispered. He said the cooks were preparing something warm. He said humans always make sure children eat first. Lyra swallowed the knot rising in her throat. Yes, they do. And now she understood what the humans were planning. They weren't putting the children into isolation or interrogation. They were bringing them into safety, into comfort, into care. It felt like a different universe. An hour later, the medics arrived with small bowls, soft, warm, easy-to-digest meals. A mild version of biscuits and gravy, made specifically for recovering patients. Lyra helped the silver-eyed girl sit upright. Eat slowly, she murmured. The girl tasted it. Her eyes went wide. It's good. Lyra smiled. It felt strange on her face. She hadn't smiled genuinely in years. Across the room, Vesh and Jorah had similar moments with the other children. The atmosphere shifted. Not cheerful, not yet, but lighter, softer. As the children ate, Mateo stepped quietly into the room with the commanding officer, Colonel Harding. The colonel observed silently for a moment, his expression thoughtful rather than stern. He spoke to Mateo in a low voice, but Lyra still heard one line clearly. They're bonding faster than expected. Good. We'll need that for what comes next. Lyra stiffened. What comes next? When Mateo noticed her gaze, he approached her gently. You okay? She glanced toward the colonel. What does he mean? Mateo hesitated, just for a heartbeat. Then he said, Your empire just broadcast a message. They're demanding the return of all POW civilians, including these children. Lyra froze. Return them? She whispered. To the same people who abandoned them? Mateo's jaw tightened. We won't hand them over. But the message means they're coming. A retrieval fleet. Cold washed through her. A fleet would bring officers. Officers would bring punishment. Punishment for failure. Punishment for being captured. Punishment for being seen alive after being declared discarded. Lyra looked at the children, fragile, trembling, finally tasting warm food again. Then she looked at Mateo. What will happen to us? She asked. His voice was steady. You'll be protected, he said. All of you. But his eyes held something else. A storm. A looming threat. A truth he wasn't allowed to say. Whatever was coming, it wouldn't be peaceful. The announcement echoed across the base before dawn. Short, clipped, military tight. Lyra could not understand the English words, but she didn't need a translation. The shift in the air told her everything. Boots pounded. Vehicles roared to life. Orders flew like sparks. The humans were preparing for something big. She stood near the infirmary window, arms wrapped tightly around herself. In the next bed, the silver-eyed girl slept deeply for the first time since arriving. The other two children slept as well, finally warm, finally fed, finally safe. And now a fleet from her empire was coming to take that safety away. Vesh appeared behind her, quiet as a shadow. They won't hand us over, she whispered. No, Lyra said, but the empire won't leave without a fight. Jorah joined them. Her hand shook. We can't go back. You know what they do to POWs who return? Yes. Lyra knew exactly. Disappearance. Reconditioning. Public execution disguised as discipline. Lyra looked at the sleeping children again. They'll kill them, she said. They'll say rescuing them was too costly. The three women fell silent. A moment later, the door opened and Mateo stepped inside, wearing full tactical gear, helmet tucked under his arm. He looked like a different man, still calm, still steady, but the softness she had seen before was wrapped in steel now. You need to come with me, he said. Jorah's voice wavered. Is it time? Not yet, Mateo said. But we're moving you to a protected zone inside the base. You and the kids. Lyra stiffened. Why? What's happening? Mateo didn't sugarcoat it. The Imperial fleet is demanding entry. We refused. They're sending a boarding party. Jorah gasped. Vesh grabbed Lyra's hand. Lyra stepped forward. A boarding party? Here? On a humanitarian base. They don't care where they are, Mateo said. They want to reclaim you. Or silence you. The children stirred faintly at the sound of raised voices. Mateo lowered his tone immediately. Pack only essentials, he said. Clothes, blankets, nothing heavy. We're moving fast. When Lyra hesitated, He stepped closer. I promise, you won't go back to them. I'll make sure of it. His voice wasn't dramatic. Not loud. Not heroic. It was a quiet, unshakable vow. And that made it more powerful than anything Lyra had ever heard. The protected zone wasn't a bunker. It was a fortified medical wing deep inside the base, guarded by armed soldiers and sealed by 2 blast doors. Lyra and the others entered quickly, carrying the children, who were still too weak to walk on their own. The room inside was warm, lit with soft yellow lights, stocked with blankets, water, food, medical supplies. Comfortable, but heavily shielded. Mateo followed them in, then sealed the inner door. Stay inside no matter what, he said. The colonel stood nearby, arms crossed, voice heavy with authority. No exceptions. Do not open this door unless we open it from the outside. Vesh whispered. Are you expecting them to reach this place? The colonel didn't lie. We're preparing for the worst. Lyra swallowed. Jorah trembled beside her. The children clung weakly to Lyra's sleeves. Mateo crouched in front of Lyra. If anything happens out there, hide behind the medical station. There's a reinforced section built for high-risk patients. Lyra stared at him. Mateo, will you be out there? He nodded once. For all of you. She wished she could speak the words sitting heavy in her chest, but she didn't know their shape. Instead, she whispered, come back. His expression softened. Count on it. Then he stood and left, sealing the door behind him. Minutes stretched. The room was too quiet, too still. Jorah whispered calming stories to the children, while Vesh paced anxiously, ears angled toward every distant sound. Lyra sat between them, torn between hope and fear. Then, faintly, the bass-shaking echo of engines whirred through the walls. Deep, heavy, wrong. Lyra recognized the sound. Imperial landing craft. Her blood ran cold. A distant thud followed, metal hitting metal. Then another. Then shouting. Jorah gasped, covering the children's ears. The colonel's voice boomed on the overhead speakers. Security breach at the western gate. All teams move to intercept. Civilians remain in protected zones. Chaos erupted somewhere beyond the walls. The air vibrated with the force of explosions, boots running, alarms screaming. The children whimpered. Lyra wrapped her arms around them, holding them close. She had never been protected before. She had never been the one doing the protecting. But she felt it now, something fierce and primal rising inside her. Something alive. Vesh muttered. If they get in here, she couldn't finish. Jorah's eyes filled with tears. They'll take us back. Lyra shook her head. No, I won't let them. Her words surprised even herself. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, then stabilized. But the flicker was enough to tell them one thing. The Imperial soldiers had reached the electrical grid. Lyra stood. I'm going to the door. Vesh lunged. No, they said stay inside. I'm not opening it, Lyra said. I just need to listen. She approached the reinforced metal door slowly, pressing one ear against it. At first, nothing. Then distant voices. Human commands. The crack of gunfire. Metal crashing. Boots scrambling. Something heavy being dragged. And beneath it all, shouting in her own language. Her throat clenched. Imperial officers. Their voices were cruel even through walls. Sharp, barking, arrogant. The tone she had grown up fearing. Then one of them shouted, recover the traitors. Kill the humans if they resist. Lyra stepped back from the door, shaking. Vesh whispered, they called us traitors. Jorah covered her mouth to keep from crying. The children huddled closer. Lyra forced herself to breathe. They won't reach us, she said. But she wasn't sure. The next moment, a sound like thunder shook the entire hallway. Something slammed into the blast door. Hard. The children screamed. Jorah collapsed to her knees, trembling violently. Vesh grabbed a metal tray, holding it like a makeshift weapon, even though she knew it was useless. Lyra moved instinctively, shielding the children with her body. The door groaned. Metal strained. Then silence. Not a peaceful silence. A waiting silence. A predatory silence. Lyra pressed her back against the medical counter, bracing for the worst. But instead of an imperial voice, She heard Mateo, far away, shouting but alive. Hold the line. Don't let them reach the medical wing. Her knees nearly buckled with relief. The colonel's voice followed, loud and commanding. Push them back. All units advance. Gunfire erupted again, but this time moving away from the protected zone. Slowly, steadily, driven by human fury, driven by humans unwilling to lose what they had sworn to protect. Minutes passed before the echoes faded. Then a heavy, exhausted quiet settled. Vesh whispered, voice trembling, Did we win? Lyra didn't answer. She stared at the sealed door, holding her breath, waiting, praying. Then, a single knock. 3 taps. The signal Mateo had told them earlier, just in case. Lyra sprinted to the door. Mateo, she choked out. His voice came through, tired but warm. It's safe. I'm here. Lyra's legs nearly gave out. The door unlocked from the outside. When it opened, Mateo stood there, armor dented, uniform scorched, face streaked with sweat and dust, but alive, standing tall. The children cheered weakly. Jorah burst into tears. Vesh sagged with relief. But Lyra, she didn't move. She couldn't. The silence inside the abandoned winery felt wrong. Too still, too perfect, too staged. Elena's footsteps were quiet against the dusty floor as she moved deeper into the shadows. The metallic scent of old machinery mixing with the cold bite of midnight wind slipping through broken windows. The place had been shut down for years, but tonight it felt awake like something was waiting. Exactly the way Luca wanted. Her heartbeat thudded against her ribs, each beat a mix of dread and stubborn hope. She had come because of the message he left, the message that felt like an apology wrapped in a threat. Meet me where we once planned to disappear. The old winery, the place they had talked about running away to when the world had felt simpler, before blood and betrayal, before choices neither of them could unmake. She hated that she still remembered that night so vividly, and she hated even more how a part of her still hoped for him, even now. A floorboard creaked above her. She froze. The shadows shifted. Elena. His voice came down like a ghost, deep, controlled, familiar in a way that hurt more than any wound could. She clenched her jaw. You could have met me somewhere normal, you know? A cafe, a street. No, he said. Not for this. His footsteps echoed as he came down the old staircase. Each step was steady, but Elena could hear tension in it, like he was walking toward judgment and already knew the verdict wouldn't be mercy. He looked different, harder, wearier. His usually sharp suit was replaced with a black shirt rolled to his elbows, bruises darkening the skin beneath. His cheek had a healing cut, his lip bore a split. He looked like he'd been fighting for days, maybe weeks. She wished she didn't care. You came, he said softly. Don't sound surprised. I'm not. He gave a humorless smile. If there's one thing I know, it's that you're brave to the point of recklessness. Her arms tightened around her torso. Tell me why I'm here, Luca. He stopped a few feet in front of her. Close enough she could smell the faint trace of gunpowder on him. Close enough to see the regret in his eyes. I didn't betray you. His voice was steady, but she could hear the strain underneath. Everything that happened, everything you think you saw, it wasn't what you believe. Anger burned through her chest. I saw you, Luca. I saw you hand my father's location to the DeSantis. I saw you walk away while they hunted him. Do you understand how that felt? Yes, he said, because I've had to relive that moment every night. Something in her throat tightened, but she forced her expression to stay cold. He took a slow breath. They had you. The words hit like a blow. They took you before the ambush, he continued. They sent me a video. You were blindfolded, tied, unconscious. They said they'd kill you unless I gave them your father's movements. Elena's breath stopped. They knew you meant more to me than my own life, he said quietly. They used you to break me. Her pulse hammered, memories scrambling, her missing hours, her waking up in that safe house, the unexplained ache behind her eyes. Her father had assumed it was from the explosion. She had believed it because she wanted to believe it. You're lying. It came out weak, too soft. He stepped closer, just one step. I would never lie to you about this. Not when it cost me everything. She swallowed hard. If they had me, if they threatened me, then why didn't you come for me? I did. He dragged a hand through his hair, breath uneven for the first time. I went to the warehouse they said was holding you, but it was a trap. They beat me half to death. By the time I escaped, you were gone. And my father? She whispered. I warned him, Lucas said. I swear to God I tried. I sent a message through my most trusted man. But Dasani intercepted him. They wanted you to think I betrayed you, so you'd run from me. So you'd hate me. Her world tilted. Everything she'd believed, everything that had stabbed into her trust, suddenly fractured at the edges. She shook her head, tears gathering but not falling. If that's true, why not tell me earlier? Why disappear? Because the moment I survived, they put a bounty on my head. His jaw tightened. I didn't want you anywhere near me. I thought staying away would keep you safe. Safe. Her voice cracked. I thought you chose them over me. I thought you traded my family for your survival. He flinched. Actually flinched. Elena, I would die before doing that. Silence hung heavy between them. For the first time, she saw the exhaustion, the weight, the quiet desperation in him. He wasn't the cold, distant Luca she had convinced herself he'd become. He was the man she had once imagined a future with. The man who used to kiss the inside of her wrist and whisper promises like secrets. Her breath trembled. Why call me now, Luca? Why bring me here? Because they're coming for you. Her heart stumbled. What? I intercepted orders, he said. Dasani thinks you know something, thinks your father told you where he kept the evidence against them. They want you gone before the vote next week. Fear sliced through her, icy and real. And, she whispered, and I'm done letting them control our lives. His voice hardened into something lethal. I'm done running. I'm done watching them take everything from me, from us. Her pulse quickened. What are you planning? War, he said simply. A shiver traveled down her spine. You brought me here to tell me that, she demanded. To drag me into another bloody mess? No, he said softly. I brought you here because I need you to trust me again. Because if you don't, I can't protect you. Her chest tightened. Trust isn't something you get back with words, Luca. I know. He reached out, but didn't touch her, letting his hand hover inches from her cheek. Then let me earn it. For a long moment, she stared at him. At the man who had broken her heart without ever meaning to, the man who still had the power to shatter her with a whisper. Show me, she finally said, voice steady despite the storm inside her. Show me the proof. Show me everything. He nodded, relief flickering across his face. I will, starting now. Then the winery doors exploded inward. Gunfire ripped through the shadows. Luca grabbed her, pulling her behind a stack of barrels as bullets tore through wood and concrete. She gasped, heart slamming against her ribs. They found us, he hissed. The air filled with dust, smoke, and the metallic scent of danger. Elena clutched the pistol Luca shoved into her hand, adrenaline drowning every thought except one. Whatever happened next, whatever truths or lies still lay between them, they were in this together now.